Okay, so the past couple of days, there has been the possibility of an extreme weather event that was supposed to happen, originally starting in New Jersey with CAPE values over 5,000 joules per kilogram. And a lot of people in New Jersey were like, oh, great, here comes the derecho. Let's just stop right there because the impact were derecho affecting New England, Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, and the Midwest have different impacting factors. For one, derechos 9 times out of 10 do not verify on call in the entire Northeast corridor. You have to be south of New Jersey, you have to be west of Pennsylvania, west of Ohio to really hear the word derecho for that to happen. So basically what was going on is everybody in New Jersey were getting all ramped up for this. And, you know, you're not going to get a derecho with the conditions that are not there to be properly put. So what I mean by that is CAPE values in the Northeast have to be 5,000 joules per kilogram or higher. You don't have that, well, guess what? Your derecho is probably not going to be very long-lived if you think 1 is going to sustain itself. 2, mid-level lapse rates, low-level lapse rates, these are all very important. These values must be high. The wind shear must be intense. These factors were not high enough or intense enough to support that. An MCS, on the other hand, is a possibility. So the National Weather Service in the Boston area threw in the derecho word for awareness, which is good. However, if I was in that office, knowing how the conditions being called out in the Northeast corridor varies from the Midwest. I mean, the Midwest, you can just drop a match on gasoline and the thing just blows up. So when they call for a derecho out in the Midwest, it doesn't take as much energy needed to start these things because there's just so much mixing going on in the Midwest. That's why it's called Tornado Alley. That's why a couple of weeks ago, South Dakota derecho had a wind gust of 150 miles per hour. Nowhere in the Northeast has even a squall line pulled that off before. So you have to understand, you know, what impacts that word is doing in different regions. Back in 2012, several months before Sandy, South Jersey was really messed up by an actual derecho. You need to have the travel, the miles. How many miles is it traveling? And another thing a lot of people do not realize is derechos, believe it or not, are sustaining a higher wind speed than an MCS. I do not care what anybody says, because if you dig enough with your research, okay, you cannot say just because an MCS is on a low tier end and it traveled a long time, that makes it the derecho. That can be partially true. But a true derecho has to really have high sustaining winds traveling a long distance, because we really have to create a gap between an MCS and a derecho. An MCS can cause, you know, widespread damage. When I mean damage, I don't mean destruction. A derecho can cause widespread destruction. So an MCS may be sustaining winds, let's say 50 miles per hour with gusts to 70. But a derecho could be sustaining winds of 70, 75 with gusts to like 80, 90, 100. On top of how long it's traveling for, this is the exact criteria of a derecho. Now, there's mixed results of what is categorized for derecho. Rather, it is wind speed or how long it travels. But I'm going to tell you right now, from the sources that I went to, and just my personal opinion, I think we really have to set a standard for a derecho and not have the gap being this small. Here's an MCS, here's a derecho. The gap needs to be this big because one is literally destructive and the other one is just damaging. So going back to what I was saying before, the best chance for an MCS would be right where the focal point is, where the low pressure is, the warm front, and the cold front that drops down. So if we go back over here, for example, okay, I'm just going to do a really quick Google Maps example because I have been very busy lately. I'm going to be going to visit Penn State this upcoming week. I am also going to be personally meeting Bernie Rayno of AccuWeather, and I have a lot of letter recommendations that are coming in. One was from Larry Cosgrove, and if nobody knows who he is He was a great broadcast meteorologist back in the day. He became a self-made multimillionaire with his forecasting empire. So I've been this busy doing a lot of things, but I just want to explain, and I think, as Larry said, my gift is hypnotic meteorology. I don't just look at thunderstorms. I don't just look at rain, snow, ice. I look at the synoptics, the storm system itself, the low pressure system itself. You know what? No, we are actually going to go to Wonderground so you can actually see a better broad picture. So we're going to go on Wonderground, and they have an awesome, awesome, awesome radar setup. I mean, the amount of options, and it's for free. What they offer is great. Like, yeah, you know, the dew point's high and everything, but it takes so much more of that because do not forget, we have an ocean, guys. New England, Mid-Atlantic, and the Northeast, we have an ocean. Derechos don't like oceans. They don't like oceans. And if you have an onshore flow, your derecho is not going to work out. Even deep inland. It will kill it. It is suffocating it. So we're going to go over to WonderMap, and I'm going to explain to you guys the synoptics, going above and beyond the dynamics with the synoptic of meteorology, the extreme weather events. Why is it some things happen and some things don't? Okay, we're going to go to our U.S. fronts. Okay, now if you look right over here, we have a stationary front along over in this area. We have a cold front draped all the way back in Indiana, Ohio, and also in Michigan. Now this is a little bit more complex because we don't have the original setup of a low pressure here, warm front here, cold front here. But basically, if a derecho were to form, or an MCS, you want to look at the most favorable conditions. One of the most favorable conditions, or areas most favorable, you really want to look into this area over here. This is where you have the best dynamics for that potential. If you were to go synoptic-wise, considering the low pressure systems all the way out here, you would have to look a little bit closer to home. But basically, if you were to take the occluded front, which is actually all the way up here, you would really want to look in this very tight area over here. Anything north of the stationary front is not going to happen. Alright, now a more simple setup, okay, let's say if the low pressure system was here, alright, and let's say that you had the cold front. I'm just trying to put an example down. The cold front's draping down like that, for example, alright? And let's say that your warm front, I'm going to just use a bunch of different colors so no one gets confused, is like this. Your derecho is not going to form all the way down in New Jersey, okay? The conditions are most favorable in what is called the storm sector. So basically this halfway point right over here, this area where the most turning of winds are. This is what a lot of people don't realize when you have tornado outbreaks. If you go back in time and look at synoptics of the storm systems, right in that sector, the most turning of the winds where the massive tornadoes spin up. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the MCS potential setup, okay? So basically this sector would be the most unstable area. You have to track the low pressure system, the warm front and the cold front to understand, where is the best possibility or chance an MCS or derecho is going to happen. And I can tell you right now, derecho, first off, okay, you don't have anything traveling like this, going this many miles. So I think the whole derecho thing from, you know, the National Weather Service in Boston, and I was saying yesterday, I think that they're going a little too extreme because some people, you know, down in South Jersey, the derecho that happened in 2012, it was bad. It was really, really, really bad. And now when that word is triggered, I mean, they freak out. So you have to make sure you're not causing hysteria. I think an MCS was a much more better explanation. But once I started to see the trend that the Cape values are going down, the wind shear is starting to go down a little bit in these areas, I just knew that this was not going to happen. But that's basically, I just explained to you as quick as I possibly could within under 10 minutes how derechos pretty much behave in the Northeast. Just remember, guys, we have an ocean. Ocean and derechos, oceans and MCSs, they're not friends. They don't like each other. That's all I have to say.